Do you know that feeling when you seemingly have everything, information, opportunities, comfort, yet inside, there's an emptiness? A 2020 Cigna study revealed that 61% of American adults feel lonely. This isn't just a bad mood, it's an epidemic sociologists call the disease of affluence. What if I told you that the most powerful tool for finding meaning wasn't discovered in libraries or universities, but in a place where there was absolutely no hope? By the end of this video, you won't just receive a philosophy, but a practical mechanism a man used to survive a concentration camp. His name was Viktor Frankl, a successful Viennese psychiatrist, loving husband, and mountaineer. Before the war, Frankl headed the neurology department at Vienna's Rothschild Hospital and had already developed the foundations of his teachings. He was no novice. He was an accomplished genius who had everything taken from him at the peak of his career. He had his own life, plans, and love. He was just like us. And then everything was taken from him. First his clothes, replaced by a striped uniform. Then his family, who vanished into the chaos of the selection platform. Then the manuscript of his life's work, which he had hidden in the lining of his coat. This was the most painful loss. And finally, his name was taken. His name, Viktor Frankl, was erased and replaced with the number 119,104, just a digit in a camp log. At that moment, there was nothing external left to cling to. It was at this point, when external pressure reached its peak, that Frankl made a profound discovery. Everything could be taken from him, except for one thing: the last of human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude toward any given set of circumstances. He began to build an inner sanctuary. He engaged in mental dialogues with his wife, Tilly. Her image, etched in his memory, gave him more strength than the icy soup in his bowl. He set a goal for himself, to survive so he could lecture about this experience after the war. And here is the first conclusion of his protocol: meaning is not something you find, it is something you create. But here's the crucial question. If a man could create meaning in hell, where every day was a fight for survival, why do we, surrounded by comfort, so often lose it? The answer is shocking. We are looking in entirely the wrong place. Frankl explained why the pursuit of happiness is a trap. Our dopamine-driven reward system resembles a chase mechanism. It rewards us for anticipating happiness, not for achieving it. Frankl intuitively understood what neurobiology confirms today. The pursuit of happiness is a treadmill that leads nowhere. He proposed stepping off it. Instead, he proposed a new operating system for humanity, which he called the will to meaning. This was a challenge to two giants of psychoanalysis. Sigmund Freud asserted that humans are driven by the will to pleasure, while his student Alfred Adler argued that the primary drive is the will to power. Frankl considered both and stated, "You are both wrong, or more precisely, only partially right." Freud believed we are pushed from the past by our libido. Adler, that we are pushed forward by our ego. Frankl, however, declared that we are pulled from the future by our meaning. This is not a blind, instinctive push. It is a conscious magnet, a fundamental human need that, if left unfulfilled, leaves a gaping hole in the soul. This magnet of meaning explains why the direct pursuit of happiness is a guaranteed loss. Frankl used a simple analogy. Happiness is like a shadow. If you chase it, it flees from you. But if you walk towards your goal, towards the sun, the shadow dutifully follows. Decades later, neurobiology confirmed his intuition. The phenomenon was named hedonic adaptation. The classic 1971 study by Brickman and Campbell became a textbook example. They compared two groups, lottery winners and people paralyzed in accidents. The conclusion was shocking. After some time, the happiness level in both groups returned to roughly the same baseline as before the event. Our brain simply recalibrates to a new reality. Happiness is not a destination. It is a side effect of moving in the right direction. You don't need scientific articles to verify this. Your own experience is the best proof. A simple 10-second exercise, right now. Stop and recall one of the most vivid, genuinely happy moments of your life. It could have been solving a complex problem, having a deep conversation with a loved one until dawn, or standing on a mountaintop. breathless from the view. Now the main question, at that moment, did you think to yourself, "Great, I'm hitting my happiness quota"? Or were you so absorbed in the process, the person, the moment, that the very concept of happiness simply didn't exist? It was a result, not a goal. Your brain knows this inherently. So what happens when this magnet of meaning weakens? Frankl gave this state a precise name, the existential vacuum. It's not depression in the clinical sense. It's a profound feeling of meaninglessness. Its primary symptoms are a quiet epidemic of our time: chronic boredom amidst abundance, apathy, and pervasive cynicism. Statistics confirm this with merciless clarity. According to the Gallup Institute, up to 85% of people worldwide do not feel engaged in their work. Think about that. Billions of human hours spent in a state of quiet quitting. And this vacuum, this emptiness, it demands to be filled. We fill it with surrogates, endless scrolling through feeds, compulsive shopping, chasing likes. All of this is merely an anesthetic, an attempt to silence the main question we are afraid to ask ourselves. But Frankl wouldn't have been a genius if he had merely diagnosed the problem. He provided a practical protocol, a cure. He asserted that there aren't one but three main paths to finding meaning, not abstract philosophical trails, but three concrete universal sources available to every person in any situation, whether in a concentration camp or a comfortable office. And now, I will show you all three. This isn't theory, it's an instruction. We'll start with the source you can activate in your life today. The first path is creation, making something or performing an action. This doesn't require you to write a symphony or build a bridge. It could be cleanly written code, a flower grown on your balcony, dinner for your family, or helping a colleague stuck on a task. Your meaning is the mark you leave on the world through your actions. It doesn't matter how grand it is. What matters is that it exists. Even the smallest meaningful act changes the fabric of reality. This is meaning born from our contribution to the world. The second path is experience, receiving from the world. This is a path not of giving, but of taking in. It could be experiencing something beautiful, music, nature, art, or encountering someone, love, friendship. Frankl intuitively described what psychologist Dashiell Keltner today calls the state of awe or wonder. Research shows that gazing at a starry sky literally reduces stress cytokines in the body. Frankl spoke of this in the language of the soul, and today science confirms it at the physiological level. Meaning can be found in the ability to deeply feel what already is. Imagine for a second that you are a tourist on planet Earth and you only have one day. You wouldn't spend it endlessly scrolling. You would eagerly absorb everything: the taste of food, the sight of a sunset, the sound of music, a conversation with a loved one. This second path is the ability to be such a tourist in your own life. And finally, the third path, the most difficult and the most powerful, the one that closes the circle and brings us back to the concentration camp barracks. This is our attitude toward unavoidable suffering. When the first two paths are inaccessible, when you can create nothing and experience nothing but pain, the last frontier remains. Here, Frankl often quoted Nietzsche, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This is the third path, transforming personal tragedy into a triumph of the human spirit, the ability to find meaning in how you face your destiny. However, logotherapy does not advocate seeking suffering. This is not masochism. It refers only to pain that cannot be avoided: severe illness, the loss of a loved one, injustice. Frankl isn't saying you should put your hand in the fire. He says that if your hand is already in the fire and you cannot pull it out, then this fire can be used to forge something valuable from your pain: courage, compassion, wisdom. Finding meaning in suffering means stripping it of its destructive power. Three paths: creation, experience, attitude toward destiny. It sounds simple, but what if our own minds prevent us from following them? What if anxiety and obsessive fears paralyze us? Frankl had a counterintuitive method for combating this, one that works against all logic. He called this technique paradoxical intention. It's a form of psychological jujitsu. You don't fight the force of your anxiety. you use its energy against itself. At its core is what Frankl called anticipatory anxiety, the fear that our fear will come true. It's a snake biting its own tail. Anxiety creates a symptom, and the symptom intensifies the anxiety. The fear of blushing in public makes blood rush to the cheeks, and that slight flush in turn triggers panic. It's a self-perpetuating neural loop that is almost impossible to break through willpower. This is why Frankl suggests not breaking this cycle, but rather taking it to the point of absurdity. Instead of fighting the symptom, you humorously wish for its intensification. Afraid your hands will shake? Excellent. Try to create an earthquake for everyone present. Afraid to blush? Set yourself the goal of becoming the ripest tomato in the room. A classic example from Frankl's practice. A medical student was terrified of sweating during an exam. Frankl advised him to enter the lecture hall with the thought, "Now I'll show them how to sweat. Normally I sweat a liter, but today I'll produce 5. The result? The student couldn't sweat even when he desperately wanted to. The fear evaporated in the absurdity. What is actually happening here? The technique breaks the vicious cycle of fear, symptom, intensified fear. Humor and paradox create distance between you and your neurosis, restoring your control. Frankl called this mechanism de-reflection. He argued that the root of the problem is precisely excessive self-observation. Paradoxical intention makes you stop being a spectator of your anxiety and become its ironic director. You shift from the role of victim to that of an actor, and in that moment, the magic of fear dissipates. How scientific is this? Surprisingly, the method devised decades ago is now part of the gold standard of psychotherapy. It directly aligns with exposure therapy techniques in CBT, and especially with the principles of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, which teaches not to fight negative thoughts, but to accept them and act in spite of them. Frankl intuitively grasped what clinical research later repeatedly proved. Techniques are good, they are tools. But what underlies them? What operating system allows us not just to cope with anxiety, but to embrace life entirely, with its joys and unavoidable pain? Frankl gave this a name, tragic optimism. And this is his main legacy to us, living in the 21st century. This isn't blind, everything will be fine optimism. It's the courage to say yes to life despite its tragic triad: pain, guilt, and death. Ordinary optimism is the belief that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Tragic optimism is the belief that you can be the light within the tunnel, even if no exit is visible. It's optimism in spite of, rather than because of, circumstances. The first element of this triad is pain. When we find meaning in suffering, we transform it into a personal achievement, a victory. Frankl often told the story of Jerry Long. At 17, he broke his neck, leaving him paralyzed. His question wasn't, "Why me?" but "What now?" He went on to earn a doctorate and became a psychologist, helping others. His tragedy became his primary tool. The second element is guilt. Frankl saw it not as a reason for self-flagellation, but as proof of our freedom. Guilt is not a whip to punish yourself. It's a compass. It simply shows you where you've strayed from your path so you can correct your course. It's proof that you have the freedom to choose that path. The meaning isn't in drowning in guilt, but in using it as a springboard for growth. And finally, the third element is death. Its inevitability is not a curse, but the primary stimulus for a meaningful life. Precisely because our time is limited, every moment and every choice gain weight. Frankl proposed a powerful thought experiment. Imagine you are living your life for a second time, and the first time, you acted just as wrongly as you are about to act now. This technique instantly heightens awareness. Death does not take meaning from life. It creates it. All of this is a powerful philosophy. But it's easy to forget tomorrow morning when you open your work email again. I've distilled all of Frankl's key ideas into a short, clear 4-step protocol. Your personal roadmap to meaning, which you can use every day. Step 1. Activate the space rule. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our freedom and power to choose our response. This is your last freedom. In any situation, especially one that seems hopeless, ask yourself, what here depends on me? The answer is almost always the same: your attitude. Step 2. Perform a Copernican revolution. Stop chasing happiness. Instead of asking, "What can I get from life to be happy?" ask, "What is life asking of me right now?" You stop being the center of the universe, waiting for benefits, and become the one who responds to its demands. Focus on contribution, not acquisition. Step 3. Conduct an audit using the 3 channels. If you feel an emptiness, simply go through this checklist. The creator's path. What can I create or do? The lover's path. What can I deeply experience or whom can I truly encounter? And the warrior's path. What attitude can I choose toward difficulties I cannot change? Step 4. Apply the Joker's method. If anxiety paralyzes you, don't fight it. Use its energy against itself. Push your fear to the point of absurdity. Laughter is a uniquely human ability to distance oneself from a situation. When you laugh at your fear, you prove that you are greater than it. These 4 steps are not a way to invent meaning from nothing. It already exists in every situation. Meaning is not a sculpture that needs to be carved from a formless stone. It is a sculpture already within the stone. Your task is merely to remove everything superfluous, not to create, but to recognize and actualize. And now, a final question for you. What do you think is most important from Frankl's teachings for modern people today? The ability to find meaning in suffering, or the rejection of the pursuit of happiness? Write one word in the comments: suffering or happiness. It will be very interesting to see which prevails.